Hi, welcome to Storytime with Miss Melissa. You don't have to listen to these stories, but I think you might enjoy them. And your moms might enjoy the time for you just to sit and watch and listen. Though nothing is without a learning objective. So while you listen to my story, can you think of some of the letters we've learned about? In particular, the letter S, because that letter is very important in this story, as one of the main characters is a snail. This story is called The Snail and the Whale. It's written by one of my favorite children's authors, Julia Donaldson. And Alex Scheffler is the illustrator. Illustrator means the person who draws the picture. You may have heard this story before. Don't worry. Just enjoy it. I love it. The Snail and the Whale. There are also a lot of special words in this story called rhyming words. Rhyming words are words that sound the same. So while you listen, can you hear any rhyming words? This is the tale of a tiny snail and a great big gray-blue humpback whale. This is the rock, as black as soot. Soot is dirt, like if you ever have a charcoal grill and then you have the leftovers, it's very dark. That's what soot is. And this is a snail with an itchy foot. An itchy foot means he likes to travel. The sea snail slithered all over the rock and gazed at the sea and the ships in the dock. And as she gazed, she sniffled and sighed. The sea is deep and the world is wide. How I long to sail, said the tiny snail. So the snail is looking out over the sea from her little rock and wondering, what's out there? These are the other snails in the rock, who all stuck together in the smooth black rock, and said to the snail with the itchy foot, "Be quiet, don't wiggle. Sit still, stay put." But the tiny snail sniffed and sighed, then cried, "I've got it! I'll hitch a ride." This is the trail of the tiny snail, a silvery trail that looped and curled and said, "Ride wanted around the world." Now, the snail's friends were saying, "Forget about it. You're never going to get anywhere." But she came up with an idea. Snails, like slugs, leave a slippery trail behind them. And she used it to write a word on the rock. Ride wanted around the world. What do you think might happen to the snail? Well, look who turned up. What's that? It's a whale, you're right. A very big whale shows up at night. This is the whale who came one night when the tide was high and the seas were bright. A humpback whale, immensely long, who sang to the snail a wonderful song of shimmering ice and coral caves and shooting stars and enormous waves. And this is the tale of the humpback whale. He held it out of the starlit sea and said to the snail, "Come, sail with me." That little snail is very brave to get onto the tail of a giant whale, not knowing what's going to happen or where in the world the whale will go. It's not unlike your teacher, Miss Melissa. I wasn't born in Bahrain. I was born in America, and I've traveled a lot of places around the world without knowing where I was going to be. Just like you, you're taking your chances with doing your learning at home. You're being safe, but you're being smart. And you're still going to travel to many places with me and your colleagues and your students and learners this year. Let's see where they go. This is the sea, so wild and free, that carried the whale and the snail on his tail to towering icebergs and faraway lands. Look how different it is. Those are icebergs. We are going to learn about the letter I this week. With fiery mountains and golden sands. There they are. Do you see the snail? She's right there on the tip. These are the waves that arched and crashed, that foamed and frolicked and sprayed and splashed the tiny snail on the tail of the whale. These are the waves, and the caves beneath the waves were colorful fish with feathery fins, and sharks with hideous toothy grins swam past the whale and the snail on his tail. It can be scary sometimes to be traveling and doing something different. This is the sky, so vast and high, sometimes sunny and blue and warm, sometimes filled with a thunderstorm. With zigzag lightning flashing and frightening the tiny snail on the tail of the whale. It's not always fun, and it's not always easy. Things can be tricky, not always breezy. This reminds me from where I'm from, Oregon. It looks like this. She gazed at the sky, the sea, and the land, the waves and the caves and the golden sand. She gazed and gazed, amazed by it all, and she said to the whale, I feel so small. We can all feel small sometimes, that we're not important. But we all have a mission to do. We all have something that makes us special, that makes you, you. Wait till you see what happens with the little snail and her giant whale. Then came the day. The whale lost his way. These are speedboats running a race, zigging and zooming all over the place, upsetting the whale with their ear-splitting roar, making him swim too close to the shore. See, whales have very sensitive ears, and if it's too noisy, they lose their sense of direction. So this whale went a little bit close to shore, which is the sand at the end where the water ends, and look what happens. Oh no! This is the tide slipping away. Every day by the sea, the water comes in and it comes out. It's controlled by the moon. This is called the tide. The whale came in at the wrong time, and now look! He's a beached whale. He's stuck. He's stuck on the beach. He can't get back into the water. What are we going to do? This is the whale lying beached in a bay. Quick, off the sand, back to the sea, cried the snail. I can't move on land. I'm too big, moaned the whale. The snail felt helpless and terribly small. Then I've got it, she cried, and she started to crawl. I must not fail, said the tiny snail. See, the whale can't live on land. It can breathe the air, but it needs to be in the sea. The snail can move very slowly. Let's see what she's up to. Any ideas? How can this tiny snail save the big whale? Wait a second. This looks like me at school, except for I don't look so angry. This is the bell on the school in the bay, bringing the children in from their play. This is the teacher holding her chalk, telling the class, sit straight, don't talk. This is the board, as black as soot. And this is the snail with her itchy foot. A snail, a snail! The teacher turns pale. Look, said the children, it's leaving a trail. This is the trail of the tiny snail. A silvery trail saying, save the whale. Remember I told you that the snail, like slugs, leave a slimy trail behind them. So she climbed all the way to the school, all the way to the board, and wrote with her slime, save the whale. These are the children running from school, fetching the firemen, dragging a pool. Look, squirting and spraying to keep the whale cool. They're all putting water onto the whale. This is the tide coming back into the bay. So they kept the water on the whale until the tide came back in and the whale could swim back out. Oh. And these are the villagers shouting hooray as the whale and the snail traveled safely away. So the whale was rescued by the snail and all the people in the village. Back to the duck and the flock on the rock, who said, how time's flown, and haven't you grown? So they went back to where they started, to meet the original snails on that dark, dark rock. What do you think they're going to think about the adventures now? They used to make fun of the snail for wanting to travel. What do you think might happen now? Well, the whale and the snail told their wonderful tale of shimmering ice and coral caves, of shooting stars and enormous waves, and of how the snail, so small and frail, with her looping, curling, silvery trail, saved the life of the humpback whale. Then the humpback whale held out his tail, and on crawled snail after snail after snail. What's happening? How do they look? How do you think they feel? They're all climbing onto the whale's tail. They're all ready for adventure. Look, there they go. And they sang to the sea as they all set sail on the tail of the gray-blue humpback whale. The end. Isn't that a beautiful story? It means that even if you are just small, as long as you have your ideas and you believe in yourself, you believe in your friends, you can do whatever you want to do. It's one of my favorite stories. I hope you enjoyed it. We're going to have a great week together, KG2.